My unhinged ex sued me for full custody and more money than a cheating partner deserves, but in the end I kept everything and celebrated Christmas with her money. I met my ex through a mutual friend about 2 years ago, and he is still my friend despite the fact that I met her because of him. I do not blame him, my radiation alarms should have gone off on their own. At first she was a very nice woman, maybe too nice, and very beautiful. We connected immediately, exchanged numbers, and started dating. About 2 weeks later things moved quickly between us. After only 6 months of dating, she called me crying, saying her situation with her roommate was toxic and that she needed to get out immediately. I had a 2-bedroom apartment and was doing well financially, so I offered to let her move in with me. Looking back, that was the first major red flag I ignored. Who moves in with someone after only 6 months? But at the time I was completely smitten with her. Living together was good at first. The honeymoon phase was intense, we could not keep our hands off each other, and that is all the detail I will give, the rest I will leave to your imagination. Then one day she told me she was pregnant. I would say I was surprised, but when you are having that much sex, birth control eventually says, "Boss, I am tired," that is just how it is. You can take pills, use condoms, and do a fertility god dance hoping it is not your day, but sometimes you rely on one method and there is always a small chance. Either way, I had always wanted to be a father, and although it was not planned, I did not dislike where things were heading. I proposed a month after finding out about the pregnancy. I bought a nice ring, did the whole getting down on one knee at a fancy restaurant routine. She said yes, but we agreed on a long engagement so we could plan the wedding properly and not rush it. When my son was born, it was the best day of my life. I took 3 weeks off to help with the baby and let her recover. This is where things got strange. She had just given birth, and I assumed she was not in the mood, and no means no, but during that time I started noticing how attached she was to her phone. She was constantly smiling at messages, and if I came near while she was on it, she would bristle like a cat that does not want you getting close. When I asked who she was talking to so much, she became defensive. You probably know where this is going, the typical signs of cheating. Things reached a breaking point around Christmas. While others were drinking punch and singing carols, she was honoring the memory of Santa by sending revealing photos to someone saved in her phone as a work contact. To be clear, at the time I did not see that she was sending those kinds of photos, I only saw the contact, but later I saw the messages and the pictures, enough to make a cherub blush, because she was wearing very little. She said something like last-minute work stuff, but I knew exactly what Santa was thinking at that moment, and it was nothing good. A few days after New Year's, my suspicion got the better of me. She was in the shower and her phone was right there on the bed. I knew her passcode, and she had never changed it because I had never checked her phone before, until then. What I found was worse than I imagined. Hundreds of messages between her and someone I determined was her ex. There were messages dating back to before our son was born. Everything from "how did you sleep today" to things she would do to help him sleep better, and where there were photos, there were videos, nothing was missing. I took screenshots of everything and sent them to my own phone as evidence. When she came out of the shower, I asked her if she had been naughty, because Santa would know. She had no idea what I was talking about, so I clarified that Santa is a pervert and likes to watch in bedrooms. At that point she knew. She admitted she was sleeping with her ex. Maybe she got a gift this year, but next year she would be getting a very large lump of coal. As is typical with cheaters, it is never their fault and the world is conspiring against them. She screamed that it was my fault for being controlling, jealous, and insecure. Of course, because it is my fault that she slept with someone else. Then she packed some clothes, took our 3-month-old baby, and stormed out, saying she was going to stay with a friend. I later found out that this so-called friend was actually her ex. I am not going to comment too much on this, with all the pronoun stuff these days, her ex could be considered a friend and prefers to be referred to as she. What really upset me was that she took our 3-month-old baby to stay with the person she had been cheating on me with. I texted her repeatedly asking when she was bringing our son back, but she ignored me or sent vague replies like when you calm down or when you stop being so controlling. After a few days, she finally came back for more of her things and demanded that I give her $3,000 for baby expenses, even though I had been covering all household costs, including baby items, from day one. When I refused to give her cash, she threatened to make my life hell and make sure I never saw my son again. I recorded that conversation on my phone without her knowing. It is perfectly legal in my state. The moment I heard the door open, I knew I had to record the interaction because I knew nothing good would come from it. A week later, I was served with court papers. She was requesting emergency custody, claiming that I was unstable, verbally abusive, and incapable of caring for an infant, complete nonsense. She was also requesting $4,500 a month in child support, almost double what the state calculator suggests based on my income. I thought that if I was going to spend that kind of money, I would rather support a lawyer than my ex's expensive tastes. I immediately started looking for an attorney and found one who specializes in father's rights, paying the retainer with most of my savings. The lawyer reviewed her filing and told me her claims were weak, but that courts sometimes favor mothers in emergency hearings. So we had to be prepared. Following my lawyer's advice, I hired a private investigator to document her activities. The emergency hearing came quickly, and the judge was skeptical of her claims from the start, especially because she could not provide any evidence of the alleged abuse or instability. I had text messages showing that I had been asking to see my son while she was the one preventing it. The only thing missing was Santa taking the stand, but since he is an imaginary being I can only see when I have had too much punch, I do not think that would have been admissible in court. In fact, if I had mentioned it to the judge, my ex probably would have won, and this story would be very different, most likely because I would be writing this from a padded room, so please do not tell anyone this secret. The judge denied her request for emergency custody due to a lack of evidence of immediate danger and set a temporary 50-50 custody arrangement until a final determination could be made. She was visibly furious, especially when her request for temporary support above the guidelines was denied. During the first week I had my son under the temporary arrangement, I noticed unusual bruises on his arm. They looked like finger marks, as if someone had grabbed him too tightly. I took photos and immediately took him to his pediatrician, who documented the marks as concerning and inconsistent with typical infant accidents. The doctor was required to report it to Child Protective Services, which also became evidence in my custody case. Around that time, I received the first report from the private investigator. She was going out to clubs until 3 in the morning while she was supposedly caring for our child, leaving him with various people I had never heard of or met. The investigator also discovered that her boyfriend, the ex she had cheated on me with, had a criminal record, including a domestic violence charge from a previous relationship. That information was no longer funny, especially after seeing the bruises on my son. Obviously, my lawyer and I acted quickly. At the same time, she started sending me floods of text messages at all hours, alternating between threats and fake sweetness. One minute it was if you drop the custody fight, maybe I will let you see him on holidays, and the next it was I miss you, we should try again for the sake of our son. Every time I read them, my head did it in a demonic voice. The medical reports and my lawyer's filings did not immediately change things, in part because my ex claimed she slipped and grabbed him hard so he would not fall, which led to further evaluations, and said she left him with people she trusted. Of course, it was all lies, but the kind of lies that delay everything and allow her to maintain shared custody. The court ordered us to attend mediation before proceeding to a full custody hearing. She showed up an hour late, reeking of alcohol at 10 in the morning. The mediator noticed, said it out loud, and documented it in her report. During the session, my ex rejected all reasonable proposals and demanded full custody with supervised visitation for me twice a month. When asked why my visits should be supervised, she could not provide any legitimate reason. Mediation failed as expected. The investigator continued monitoring her activities and sent more evidence. She was subletting our son's bedroom in her apartment to a stranger to make extra money, while making our son sleep in her room. He is 3 months old and does not need much space. He could sleep in a long bread basket, but she had a stranger in the home with a nearly newborn baby. They also documented that she left him alone in the apartment while she went out for more than an hour. I immediately forwarded this to my lawyer and filed another report with Child Protective Services. That made 2, but 3rd times the charm. They visited her home after this last report, which was far more than they had done with the first one. Somehow, she convinced them everything was fine, and they closed the case. I was furious, but my lawyer assured me that the documentation would still be useful for our custody case. She then filed an amended petition demanding full legal and physical custody, $5,000 a month in support, and that I pay all of her legal fees. Her filing included fabricated evidence of text messages that were clearly edited. My lawyer immediately filed a motion to authenticate the evidence, which her side opposed. During one custody exchange, she screamed at me in front of our son, calling me a useless sperm donor and threatening to find someone better to be his real father. I recorded the entire incident on my phone without her knowing, something that had become routine for me. The court appointed an evaluator to investigate both homes and make custody recommendations. This is a person whose job is to represent the child's best interests in court proceedings. My ex immediately tried to befriend her on social media and sent her gifts, which the evaluator reported to the court as inappropriate behavior. When she visited my home, I provided copies of all the evidence, including private investigator reports, medical records, and recordings. I showed her my son's fully equipped room and the child-proofed house. I answered all her questions honestly and made it clear that despite everything, I only wanted what was best for my son. She then visited my ex's home. According to her report, my ex spent most of the visit complaining about me instead of focusing on our child's needs. Finally, the custody hearing day arrived. My ex showed up 20 minutes late, dressed inappropriately for court in a revealing outfit that made the judge visibly uncomfortable. Her testimony was full of contradictions and became hostile during cross-examination. When my lawyer presented evidence contradicting her claims, I testified calmly, did not mention Santa, and focused on the facts. The evaluator testified that based on her investigation, she recommended that I receive primary physical custody, sole legal custody, and that my ex be ordered to pay child support according to her income. The judge also noted that the evidence suggested my ex had been using the custody battle as a way to extract money rather than out of genuine concern for our son's well-being. The system had worked the way it was supposed to. That is why this is a story with a happy ending. If my ex had not been so, well, you choose the word, things would likely be very different. But thanks to her, things worked out well for everyone. I am also grateful that she suggested a long engagement, because it saved us from a divorce at this point. Edit: I did not mention the DNA test for 2 reasons. First, I forgot with everything I had to write in this story. I actually left a lot out, though it was not as important. Second, that test is ordered by the court as a first step when proceeding with a case. If it had come back negative, we would not be talking about custody or support. I think having had so much sex made the odds favorable for me. If she was cheating during that period, that is why I thought it was obvious. That was my mistake, sorry. He is my son, and I am glad, because now I get to be Santa for him. I do not know if you noticed, but I really like Christmas. Update 1. Although my first post was meant to be the only one, a lot has happened over the past month and a half. To quickly recap, my ex cheated on me, took our son when I confronted her, filed for emergency custody claiming I was unfit, and demanded excessive child support, but the court did not believe her lies and awarded me primary physical custody, ordering her to pay support based on her income. Since then, my ex has done everything she can to make this transition difficult and continues to prove that hurting me matters more to her than being there for her son. The drama started immediately after the court's decision. She did not show up for her first scheduled visit. We waited for an hour at the designated location until the social worker messaged her asking where she was. I doubt those were the exact words, she probably used more official language, but that was what I was thinking. Her response was, "I am busy, I cannot make it today." Our son may not consciously remember individual visits at this age, but he deserves consistency and care from his parents. If she does not want to be his mother, she can decline these supervised visits. My lawyer advised me to keep detailed records of all missed visits regardless of the social worker. Almost a week later, she finally showed up for her scheduled time, but arrived about 15 minutes late and brought her boyfriend, the man she cheated on me with. The social worker told her that the time was only for her and her son and that there could be no third person present, especially not one with a criminal record. She completely lost it, started screaming obscenities, and threatened to call the police for withholding her child. The social worker responded in that calm government worker voice, saying, "Ma'am, I am here enforcing the law. You can call whoever you want, but unless the president comes out of your purse right now and orders me otherwise, things will be done my way." My ex then went around trying to get other people at the facility to support her poor judgment, but no one gave her the response she wanted, which led to even more yelling. The social worker glanced at me over her glasses, and I said, "Tell me about it, I dated that person for several months." When my ex realized no one was siding with her, she left. Apparently it was more important to her that her ex with a criminal record be present than actually seeing our son. Meanwhile, I was holding my son, half asleep, because that is what babies that age are supposed to do, lucky little things. 3 days after that incident, I received notice that she had appealed the custody decision. Her appeal claimed the judge was biased against mothers and that the investigator had a personal vendetta against her. My lawyer said that based on her latest performance at the supervised visit, we had already won. He explained that just because someone does not like a ruling does not mean it gets overturned. Shocking, I know. While dealing with the appeal, I noticed her first child support payment was due, but nothing came in. I checked my bank account, under the couch, everywhere, but nothing. When I messaged her to ask about it, she replied, "Good luck collecting, I quit my job, so have fun trying to get blood from a stone." Since the private investigator had been so helpful during the custody case, I decided to keep him on retainer. That turned out to be another smart move. Within days, I received evidence showing that she had not quit her job at all, but was now working under the table to avoid wage garnishment. Not literally under a table, but I could believe it. The appeals court denied her appeal for lack of substantive legal grounds, and to add insult to injury, ordered her to pay my legal fees for the appeal. I filed a motion for wage garnishment and enforcement with family court, and the hearing was scheduled for early August, giving us plenty of time to prepare an even stronger case. At this point, my lawyer and I could play a few rounds of ping-pong because we have everything we need to win. It is nice that she is paying my legal fees right now, hopefully she will pay the child support too. If I did not have family support or a good job at the moment, I would probably be waiting for that money like it was Christmas morning, but at this point I am doing it purely out of spite. Update 2. The child support enforcement hearing finally took place in early August. She once again claimed financial hardship and inability to pay. At this point, I think she is incapable, just not of paying. The judge seemed to think something similar, especially after essentially asking how she had been surviving the past few months if she had no job. She claimed that her ex, not technically her ex but you know who I mean, was supporting her. When the judge saw the ex's income, I think I saw a tear roll down the judge's cheek. So it became clear that even then, it was impossible for her to support herself on that amount of money. The judge was very displeased with the situation and ordered her to pay the monthly child support regardless of whether she had a formally declared job or not. He also stated that he would report her situation to the authorities, but she begged him not to. The judge informed her that he was doing it for her own benefit, since working off the books was harmful to her. I do not think my ex sees it that way. The judge also made it clear that if she continued refusing to pay, it would result in contempt charges, which could mean fines or even jail time. She has also missed every single scheduled visit with her son, which led to the visitation agreement being modified to only once a month. If she continues missing these visits, they will be permanently terminated until she demonstrates a genuine intention to be a responsible mother. She will also be required to undergo psychological evaluations and drug testing, which makes it advisable that she not miss those either, but I am sure she does not care, and losing the visits will probably do her a favor. She likely will not even try to request them again in the future. She did not show up for her first monthly visit under the new schedule, and at this point I have lost track of how many months it has been since she last saw our son. Another issue that makes me believe she will never see her son again is that I received a very recent notification that she was moving to another state with her boyfriend. She did not bother informing the court, as required by the custody order, which explicitly states that neither parent may move more than 150 kilometers without court approval and a modification of the custody agreement. If she follows through with the move, we will request that any visitation rights be terminated entirely, and as I said before, reapplying for them later will be much more difficult. This does not absolve her of paying child support, and she knows it, but it is better for my son to stay with a parent who truly wants to be one. Update 3. The initial hearing for the termination petition was quite a spectacle. She appeared by video, claiming she could not afford to return to the state for the hearing. The judge was clearly unimpressed, pointing out that she had made no effort to maintain any relationship with her son despite having court-ordered opportunities to do so. She had paid $0 in child support despite court orders and had moved out of state without following proper legal procedures. Her testimony was full of excuses. She missed visits because she was sick, even though she never called to reschedule. She could not pay child support because she was between jobs, despite evidence that she was working and spending freely. She moved without notice because it was a sudden opportunity she could not pass up. The judge told her he was not there for her nonsense and that she would either start paying or he would enforce the law, even if she was in another state. The final termination hearing was scheduled for 1 week later. She did not appear, neither in person nor by video. The court granted termination of her parental rights based on abandonment, lack of support, and demonstrated disinterest in parenting. 1 week later, I received the final court documents confirming the termination of her parental rights. My son is officially mine alone now. In the end, she lost all legal ties to him and now owes money she will probably never pay. The judge has already imposed fines for non-payment, and the next step will be jail. She may think that leaving the state frees her from this, but it only makes things a little harder. It worries me that this started as a single post and now we are almost a year in with several updates. Edit: I forgot to mention something concerning that warrants a doctor's visit. My ex was fired from her last known job, the same one the judge was going to report. I am not sure if it technically counts as being fired since she was not legally registered, but she no longer works there, and that may be what prompted her to leave the state. Just a small detail for those of you who like having all the details. Update 4. After several months, my ex was located and taken to jail for unpaid child support. The ironic part, though not very funny given the situation, is that we would never have been able to find her if it were not for her ex. Her now truly ex beat her, yes, the same one with a record for assault and domestic violence, and who she probably thought would never hit her. He gave her the beating of her life, which led her to file a police report. And believe me, I am the first to admit that I am not sad that my ex is miserable after everything she did, especially to my son, but I do not agree with physical violence. I do agree with her paying child support, even though I do not actually need it, and I also agree with her spending some time locked up, but not with being beaten, even if it was her own fault for being with someone like that. She went to report him to the police, and when they took her information, they saw that she had an outstanding warrant for failure to pay child support. She now has to spend 3 months in prison and begin paying the back payments. She also received medical attention because she arrived at the station bleeding and with a dislocated arm, so they took her to be treated before discovering she was wanted. After receiving treatment, she is now serving her time behind bars until she completes her sentence. She still has almost 2.5 months left before she gets out. I do not know what she will do when she does, but at least she does not have her ex to run away with anymore. Maybe this whole situation will make it clear to her that paying is the best thing she can do. As for my son, he is fine. He is only 1 year old, so he does not even know who his mother is, considering she was barely present during his first months of life. I cannot blame him. He is only one. It will be appropriate to wait some time before telling him who his mother is and what she did. If I told him this whole story now, it would probably traumatize him or make him laugh, whichever came first. We had our first Christmas together without his mother, and it was beautiful. I dressed up as Santa and played with him and the other children in the family. The good thing about him being 1 year old is that he can still believe Santa exists. When you reach my age, the only way to believe in Santa is if you are hallucinating and think he is standing to your right. Mini Update 5, Final Update. For this group of friends I have made on Reddit, almost a full year has passed and I have not had much to say. The holidays tend to put me in the mood to write here. Maybe it is the snow outside, the smell of cookies baking that no one is actually making in this house, or the punch. There is enough of it now to make for a proper update. My ex got out and started paying child support. She still owes a huge amount between fines and back payments, and it will take her time to catch up. But if there is one thing to say, it is that at least she is paying. She has not yet asked to reinstate the custody arrangement or even request supervised visits, but I know that moment will come. I am not worried. As long as she has not paid everything she owes, her case is complicated. She also does not seem interested at the moment, though at some point she probably will be, if only to mess with me. Maybe what her ex did knocked some sense into her and she never will, but I know her narcissism is strong. At least this year we will be celebrating with her money. This is the second year it has just been my son and me. I am starting to notice that he looks at me with suspicion when I am in my Santa suit. Maybe he recognizes me under the costume. Maybe I should not have gained weight and ended up looking so much like the real Santa, or maybe I am just overthinking it. You have to enjoy them while they are kids. Later they grow up and make their own posts saying that their dad likes dressing up as Santa and drinks too much punch.